You're listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast, coming to you from the Kitchen Studios, located high atop the historic Raleigh building, located in the heart of downtown Raleigh. The NC F&amp podcast takes you behind the scenes of North Carolina's food and beverage industry. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NCFBPod. And now, the sommeliers to the stars, the barbacks in your backyard. It is Max and Matt.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And today in the studio, we have the queen of Cary Pizza and Bagels, Mrs. Amber Faulisi of Pizzeria Faulisi and Big Dom's Bagels. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Great to have the royalty in here.
It's not your normal intro, like what people know you as?
Sometimes.
I've seen you wear the crown in that must have just been for Dom's birthday.
So I did put on the calendar invite to have you here, Amber, that this is not an April Fool's prank, but today is April Fool's Day, and how many times have we tried to have Amber on the podcast?
Oh, yeah. Many times.
April Fool's on us.
She's a busy woman.
I'm a little busy these days.
Yeah.
Sticking and moving, bobbing and weaving, but we got you. We finally we got you into the chair, into the studio. But we're excited, and it's funny. I mentioned to my wife Felicia that Amber Faulisi of Pizzeria Faulisi is going to be on the show, and she goes, "You guys are so pizza heavy," and I went, "We are pizza heavy," and she goes, "But that's kind of makes sense for what's going on in the food realm of the triangle, let's at least say, if not just maybe society, but pizza's hot. That's I mean, that's obvious. Pizza usually is hot.
Well, cold pizza
cold pizza's fine.
Yeah.
But you know what? I actually had some cold pizza the other day. It was Anthony's Oakwood pizza box.
Yeah.
I had some leftovers. Cold pizza is not as good as hot pizza. I'm just gonna go out there and say it. Amber, what say you? The hard questions come first.
Yeah, I know. I'm more of a hot pizza person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I've
done cold like here and there, but I prefer
it's good
it to be
hangover
hot.
food, right? Like the cold pizza, and the next morning you don't feel you're like hungry. You wake up, you don't want to go warm it up and waste the time. So you just eat it cold.
I guess if you're alluding to that, you're super lazy and incapable of hitting a microwave or a toaster oven. Yeah, sure.
But then also a microwave that
makes it soggy.
It makes it soggy, exactly. So it's like I sometimes rather eat cold than have it soggy.
Yeah.
So.
Toaster oven is the best for the
best,
pizza,
yeah.
Just in case you didn't know out there, folks.
But no, back to your original point. I mean, how could we have Teddy on and then not have Anthony on? And then if we've had both of them, how could we not have Amber on? Because it's like we're hitting all aspects of the triangle, different styles of pizza with Neopolitan, with Roman, and now, now with Neopolitan, but we hit New York and Roman before, so...
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's give some point of reference for everybody out there listening, because I'm sure some of you know and have dined at Pizzeria Faulisi, which is out there in Cary, but maybe not everybody knows, and maybe everybody should know. Well, definitely everybody should know. Give us a brief overview of your location, of what you guys do there.
So we are located in downtown Cary, and if anybody's familiar with Bond Brothers, we are right in that little alleyway there, and right next to Sidebar.
Sidebar, friend of the show.
Yes, Matt.
Oh, by the way, your neighbor, Matthew, he obviously hasn't been listening to the show because his water pitcher's still here, so I just want to let you know.
Can I go even further? I don't know if you noticed our social media post with Anthony and his family, but Matthew Bettinger's was in the picture.
Yeah.
Because I went there to pick up pizza, and to take pictures because we failed to take pictures post-show with Anthony. And I go pop in there, and Matthew Bettinger, right on cue, because he mentioned on the show that they were really close friends. And I said, "Matthew, have you listened to Anthony's episode released earlier today?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to. I'm going." "Yeah, you need to. Specifically, you will find some things that will happen." He's like, "Oh, okay." Still haven't heard anything. Crickets.
He's a busy guy also. But anyway, I digress. He is your neighbor. So that just in itself, it's like such a unbelievably beautiful idea for a location. Even though you guys were first, it's like, here's a brewery, here's a cocktail bar. What do you want when you have some sauce, like a little beer, a little cocktails? You want pizza, and there you guys are.
Yeah, it's a great, we all kind of help each other out, we have Pro's Epicurean Market, and they do Italian and some different, like, prepared foods, and kind of like a little retail, too. And then you have Sidebar that's just cocktail-driven, and then you have the brewery, and none of them do food either, so we're all just helping each other out.
It's a great design. I don't know if the property manager made that happen, or if just all the businesses found their way there, but I mean, again, like Matt said, you were there first, and Bond came, I think, second, and then
I think Bond was there. Bond was there first. You were there first before Matthew.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's get into it now. You and your husband, Zach, you guys run the pizza place, which is in fact a Neopolitan style pizza, and this is wood-burning ovens. This is traditional, which, as we alluded to before in previous episodes, that Neopolitan has a lot of rules and regulations to kind of even be there. And this isn't your first jam, though, so to speak. I mean, you've been in kitchens for a while, so I'd love to kind of know a little bit about your history, about how you got to that point, but then also how you ultimately just said, screw it, all that food, no, we're just making pizza.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it definitely is a question that's asked a lot. So when I graduated high school, literally like a month or two, I went into culinary school. And then I took my externship at Pinehurst. So that's what first brought us to North Carolina. Zach and I actually met at culinary school. So we were like, all right, let's do this journey. So we worked at Pinehurst for like a year. And then we're like, there's nothing down there but golf. And neither one of us golfed.
Right.
So we moved up to Raleigh.
You were at the resort. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which actually the U.S. Open was going on at that time. So it was just like every day you were doing breakfast and lunch and dinner for like 750 or more guests.
What an entry into an externship. That's that's talk about being thrown into the fire, pun intended.
Oh, yeah. No, they put me on the omelet station right away.
Jeez.
That was fun. So from there, actually moved up to Cary.
Yeah.
And I worked at Prestonwood Country Club, and then I did On, and then Coquette when they first.
Were you at On when Anthony was there?
No, so I still have Michael Chong as my chef.
Okay, gotcha.
He's serious.
I'm sure.
Didn't he do? He's not there now. He left, and now he's doing
Elements.
Elements in Chapel Hill, which is
okay.
That's right. Yeah, Michael Chung of Elements.
There you go.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Coquette, I worked there, which is funny because the first time I came out to meet my neighbor at Sidebar, Matt, I was like, hey, how's it going? I'm Amber. And he's like, yeah, I'm Matt. Like, we worked together at Coquette years ago. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I was so focused on Fish Station at Coquette, I wasn't even paying attention to anything else. And then from there, I was like, I just got this drive that I want to go to New York City. I'm like, I'm young. I was like 22, maybe 22. And I was like, this would be a good time to just go and do it, because if I don't do it now, I don't know when I will. So we moved to New York City, and my first job was at La Conda Verde. Andrew Carmellini had just taken over the Greenwich Hotel. It was really fun. The first thing I ever cooked there was lentils. So lentils are pretty dear to me.
Any tricks to cooking a good lentil?
So we would cartouche it.
I don't know what that means. Cartouche? I should know this stuff. I don't know what that means.
So you take a piece of parchment paper, a large piece of parchment paper, and you fold it over, and you almost make it look like an airplane, and you cut a little hole down where it's all folded together, and then you open it up. So there's just like it basically vents the the liquid to come out, but not too much liquid to come out.
Okay, so it's not like steaming it. No.
No, not necessarily.
That's fine.
You can tell Maxie's wrong. People can't see your motions on the podcast.
Talk a lot with my hands.
No, Max, that's not right.
I've been told I'm wrong many times.
Actually, that's not it at all.
Venting, I guess. I don't know. It's not covered completely. It's just letting some of the steam out. So it's just like a very slow cook and gentle.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah. I just want to preface also for those that are listening that might not know about La Conda Verde or Andrew Carmellini, but Locanda Verde, especially when it opened, and still is, I mean, there was so much hype about this place. It was huge. It was like the top Italian spot in the city for a long time. Maybe arguably still one of the top ones. And Andrew Carmellini, I mean, he has the Dutch, Lafayette, obviously Locanda Verde. What I can't even remember.
He
all
just
his
opened
places,
up in Detroit.
Okay.
Joe's Pub, the
Joe's
library,
Pub, which is where Zach worked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Zach was a chef there for 3 years. And he has a place in Baltimore now. He the Dutch Miami, because that's where we're going next.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that
so
makes sense now. But you didn't also work at you worked at the Dutch and Locanda Verde like simultaneously.
So I worked at Locanda Verde for 2 years, and then I was done with New York.
Okay, got it. You had your New York fix, and you're like,
that was good.
So do you say to Andrew? Do you say like, I'm done? Can we do something else, or did you pointedly want to go to Miami, or did the opportunity come up and you said, yeah, I'll go to Miami?
So before Miami, we were in Durham for 6 months. So
you came back, that's right.
Yeah. So after New York, we had just gotten married, and we're like, okay, we're like ready to settle down. And so we're like, we really like North Carolina. So what's looking at job opportunities and stuff, and then Bull City Burger and Brewery was opening up, and so we met with the owner, and we came down, we checked it all out, and we're like, okay, yeah, let's do this. Durham, it's a city, and
yeah, up and coming.
Yeah, we were definitely on the up and coming side for sure. So yeah, we did that for 6 months, and then that's when Andrew Carmellini called me up and was like, hey, I have an opportunity for both of you guys. I'm taking over the W Hotel on South Beach in Miami. Do you want to be a sous chef? You run the restaurant side, and then I need more hotel experience, which Zach had that, so he was the executive sous chef of the W.
Wow, that's awesome. What a I mean, that's validation right there. You did a good job when somebody calls you back after you've moved out of their, like Max you like to say, purview. You're in Durham.
It's a word in the English language. That's why I say it.
And then they call you to say, hey, I'm opening up a project in Miami. Do you want to come work for me there? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Miami in itself, whereas I've never been and I need to go, sounds like an awesome place to say when you're young, no children at this point.
Yeah.
You kind of do whatever you want and go have fun and work long hours and put a lot of that elbow grease and sweat equity into a business. So I have to think that also helped mold you, just every experience for one, but that in itself, just going to a new city for work. Like, you went there to do that job. How did that influence what you do now?
Yeah, we took over that whole place, so it was just cleaning everything, like getting rid of stuff, just putting our label on it and everything.
You mean the W in Miami, which, by the way, we were supposed to go there this year. Didn't happen, but I hear that place is like the signature W of the whole W hotel lineup. It's supposed to be awesome.
It's the dub.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's 450 rooms, literally right on the beach. It's when they first flew us down there, we got like the treatment, and it's really nice.
Like, yes, we will. Anyway, so you put your stamp on that place.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So just dealing with everything. I mean, I was opening sous chef, so coming in at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, getting the kitchen going, getting people, motivated to prep. And the hard thing about Miami is sometimes people would call in and be like, I'm not coming in today.
Yeah, it's a lot of great nightlife.
Yeah. So you would end up working a station or working the entire day if somebody else called out too.
So it was for them, and then
it was definitely long hours.
When you're when you're the opening sous chef. Mm-hmm. So it's the Dutch. So you already have a somewhat established menu in New York. Mm-hmm. What's the hierarchy? Andrew Carmellini is the EC, and you're the sous right there, or is there a CDC?
We had a Connor was his name. He's actually now. I think he might be back in Baltimore. He keeps bouncing around all over the place because now he kind of oversees everything.
Okay.
So there was Andrew Carmellini, and then his like executive sous, which was Connor at the time, and then he had 3 sous chefs. So you had an opening sous. You kind of had 2 other ones that were just maybe...
So you're executing. You're not much in menu design at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So setting up the line, which, we're setting up an entire line from scratch of, okay, now we're in Miami. We're not in New York anymore. So we went to farms to see, what produce grows down there, because it's different produce, obviously, and getting in touch with those farmers. So we did like a whole farm tour, and then we... design our menu more around like the fresh seafood that we could get and all that kind of stuff too.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay. So
you both said, this is fun, but we got to split. We got to get out of here. Was this together?
Yeah. So we did this for a year.
Okay.
And again, it was a good experience and everything, but we were just like, we just miss New York. We miss the passion that people really had for wanting to be there and do what they do. Not that people in Miami industry doesn't do that, but it's just it's a little different down there. Like, again, because there's a lot of nightlife and stuff. So
it's similar in Los Angeles, where there's just so much distraction, and it seems like there are very few people that are committed to, say, do that craft, like the food and beverage industry. I think now it's more that way, but like in LA, everybody wanted to be an actor, so they're like, this is my priority, and if I can make it to work, I'll make it to work.
Yeah.
But I get that. There's a lot of other things to do. So you go back to New York for a stint?
So we went back to New York for 3 years. So when I went back, Andrew Carmellini was looking for a sous chef at the time at La Conda, which was perfect because I already had worked all the stations and knew everything. So I went back as a sous chef, and Zach, the opportunity for Joe's Pub to be a chef was available. Nice. And so that's how he was the chef and I was the sous chef at La Conda.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so again, North Carolina comes calling, or
So we're in New York, we're doing our thing, and then we're like, we're kind of getting older. If we're going to have a child, we should probably think about this now. And we were in a good place in our careers that we were like, now's the time, So we had Dom, and he was about 6 months old, and we're like, this city's too expensive. We don't really want to raise our child in New York. It's not really for us.
Oh, so Dom is New York born.
Now
he really gets the bagel street cred.
Yeah. Yes. We realized that like only like a month or 2 ago. We're like, no, he really was born in New York.
Yeah, because we haven't talked about bagels yet, but I was like, Pittsburgh, Italians making bagels. What's going on here? But now Big Dom's makes all that much more sense.
He is an OG New Yorker.
Yeah,
that's good.
So
we'll get there.
Yeah,
I know my story's so long.
We're talking bagels. We can't get to bagels yet.
No. Fair point.
But so then Dom is born. You go. Life will be probably a lot easier if we move to North Carolina. Raise a family, as I think was my decision. I think was Matt's decision. And it's probably your decision, person driving, listening. For a lot of us, like that just made sense. This is a great place to raise and start and afford a family. So I assume those were probably all the reasons. Right?
Yeah, we definitely did our research, and everything kept coming up North Carolina. I would say Charleston, South Carolina was a second.
Especially for the food industry.
Yeah, we've been there, oh my God, like 10 times at least. It's just like we would just go there for like a day or two and eat. Yeah, so it's always been like on our radar. But the opportunity at the Durham came up, and Zach he flew down and he did an interview, and it went really, really great. And he's like, yeah, like this is, I really like this. I like Andrea and what she's doing and everything.
Yeah, Andrea Rusing, of course, and everyone knows Andrea Rusing, and that would be excellent to work for her.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to learn? Do you want to maybe pick Zach's brain on how to have a good interview with Andrea Rusing?
Clearly, I don't know how.
I'm nudging Max because he has a famous story, but maybe we'll tell that once we have Andrea on the show.
That's for Andrea and I only. Maybe on the podcast when we can have her. Andrea, if you're listening, maybe you're listening because you love the Faulisis and you thought, it's time to listen to that good old North Carolina food and beverage show. This is only for Andrea. Everyone stop listening. Andrea, we had a great conversation. I feel like you think I'm a crazy person. And I've got a real answer of why I was acting so weird in that interview.
And let's talk about that on the show.
I will leave that just right there. and we're going to keep going.
And hey, maybe for some advice on all things restaurant-wise, we can take this opportunity to talk to Forrest Firm to give us some advice.
That's a perfect idea. All right, a little break, and we'll come right back.
We're going to take a quick little break from today's podcast to speak with our friends over at the Forrest Firm. Everybody welcome Miss Leslie Lasher, an attorney at the Forrest Firm with a focus on employment law. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here today.
This is a question that was brought to us by one of our listeners via our Instagram post. What are the laws in regards to tip pooling, and such as like a back-of-the-house employee? Are they allowed to be involved in tip pooling?
Sure. Tip pooling is one of the biggest questions I get in the food and beverage industry, so it's a great question. It is a little bit different depending on your scenario, but the high level here is that you can tip pool. There's a North Carolina and a federal law on this, but the North Carolina law would say that you can tip pool as long as the folks that are sharing in the tips are folks that are actually receiving tips. So usually folks in the kitchen, people that are not in service-oriented jobs actually can't take part of the tip pool. The other piece of the tip pool would be that if there is a pool, you can't reduce someone's tips by more than 15%. So they have to be getting 85% of the tips that they actually receive in order for the tip pool to float with the law. Lots of other pieces that go on here. It needs to be in writing. You need to be keeping records of how much a person is receiving in tips, what the pool is, and if you're reducing anyone's tips, you need to be able to show that it's meeting that 85% threshold.
To clarify, then, we're talking about people that are, say, front of the house that are touching a table, whether they're the server and or a host or a back wait or busboy. Those people would all be available to receive tip.
Yes, a person who can receive a tip, it used to be called the 80-20 rule, where if you were spending more than 20% of your time on something that was not eligible to receive tips, you could not be part of the tip credit or the tip pool. The new regulations or rules rather from the Department of Labor suggest that the 20% doesn't matter as much. So they're looking at what the main job duty is and whether the non-tip part is just incidental to the job.
I guess, and I don't want to be Perry Mason up here, but couldn't you argue that anyone preparing food for a table is part of the experience of which the tip is being provided?
Yes, you could certainly argue that. I think what the Department of Labor would say would be that that position is not typically someone who would be tipped by a customer.
Sure.
And so they're not going to fit in that job description of someone who would be tipped. You're looking more at your servers when you think of the true job duties of someone who would be tipped by a customer.
So 85%, is there 15% that doesn't go to everyone? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
So if you pull it together and you distribute the tips, the person who actually received the $100 tip needs to take away $85. So they could distribute 15% of that tip to someone else via the pool, but that person would need to retain $85 or 85% of the tip. And again, we're speaking in generalities here. It could change slightly depending on the scenario, but that person that actually receives a tip should walk away with that amount.
Yeah, that protects a server that is killing it on the floor as opposed to another server that's barely doing anything.
Absolutely.
Right. In that scenario, I get that. So you have 4 servers. 3 of them brought in $350 each, and 1 server brought in $50. Well, the person that brought in $50 doesn't get an equal share of that at that point.
Correct. And then in the background, what the restaurant is probably doing, they have a calculation that they're using for the tip pool. So when we take that 15% out, how are we allocating it? Is it your hours? Is it how many customers you sat that day? What is it? You know, there's a formula you all would have on how to distribute the pool itself.
And that would just be an agreement upon being hired or just going out and everyone signs off on it so that everyone knows how they're getting paid.
Absolutely. Everyone needs to know how they're getting paid. I would say not as much an agreement, but the restaurant can come up with that on their own. And this is how we tip pool. And as long as you're sharing that with your employees and they're fully aware of how it works, that's really what the law requires. And then keeping your records pursuant to that agreement.
That's great. That's a lot of stuff I didn't know before, and I've been in this business for way too long. To learn more about the Forrest Firm and what they can do for you, click the link in our show notes. Or visit forrestfirm.com/NCFB to request a free consultation for your business. You can also reach them at 877-669-1455. Forrest Firm, business attorneys across North Carolina.
But so Zach had a really good interview with Andrea, who decides to come work for the Durham. And what were you doing at the time? Did you go work for Vivace at that point?
So when we were back for the 6 months in Durham, that's when I was at Vivace.
Oh, okay.
And that was my first sous chef gig. So it was good to see that and, get to kind of do my own thing with some, if there was a special going on, I could design my own special and put it out there. So yeah, that was even though it was only 6 months time, it was a good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what were you doing when you guys came back to work when Zach was chef over at the Durham Hotel?
So at that point, I was a stay-at-home mom because I had Dom. Yeah, and it was if I, am I going to go work for somebody and take my paycheck and hand it to whoever's watching my child, or am I going to just watch him myself? And our plan was always that we wanted to raise Dom ourselves. We don't have any family around here, and we just didn't want to give him off to somebody else. So it's always been, our thing.
And then I met Zach when I was peddling bourbon for a while, and he was really nice to me because I would bring in great bourbon all the time. But and then he told me very, very soon on, because originally you guys had full bar at Faulisi, that you guys were opening up over there. So I knew very early on when you guys were opening up. But how long coming back did you guys have this plan? And tell us about the creation of Pizzeria Faulisi.
Yeah, so when I was still a sous chef at La Conda Verde in New York, and I was 7 months pregnant, and I was like, okay, I'm a pretty petite person, and I'm getting very big, and this is getting hard to be on my feet for, 14 hours a day or whatever it is, and for me personally, if I can't do something all the way, I'm just going to not do it.
Yeah.
So I was like, we're in a good place that I could take some time off, but if I'm not working, what am I doing? And so we really got into pizza and living in New York and tasting different things. And Polly G's was one of our favorite places. We lived in Queens, and we would just, take the train over to Brooklyn, Greenpoint, and get pizza. And actually, when we were in New York, we took a 3-day trip, and we flew out to Arizona for a day, and we ate at Pizzeria Bianco in Phoenix, and then we took a road trip up to Flagstaff, and we ate at Pizza Coletta, which is one of my favorites. And then we flew out the next day to Portland, Oregon, and we ate at Lovely's 50 and Pizza Shoals. We definitely did some pizza research there. And then we went to Seattle the last day. We were only there, we took a train up to Seattle, and we ate at Salou Maria.
Okay.
Mario Batali's father's place.
Oh, nothing there.
Yeah, he has a Salou Maria there.
Okay.
So we got, a sandwich with all these cured meats on it. And then we went up in Space Needle, but then we took the red eye back to New York that night. So we were only in Seattle for a little bit. But anyway, we did all this pizza research. And so, we've been in fine dining.
With the intention of opening up a pizza place eventually, or just like, hey, I want to geek out on pizza?
Yeah, no, I'm all over the place here. But when we were days off in Miami laying on the beach, you'd be like, oh, what do we want to do? Like, what's our future goals? Do we want to have a food truck? Do we want to have a sandwich shop? So we were throwing all these ideas back and forth. And then we really got into the whole pizza thing. And we're like, well, what if we did a pizzeria and we just had like some antipasties? And that way we can still, do our creative side and like these smaller dishes and still do maybe like a couple desserts or whatever. Yeah, we definitely got into like, let's just focus on one thing and kind of perfect it, basically. And so that was pizza. And so I would practice dough, different ways of making dough, whether it was natural fermentation or using a Polish or whatever it was, fresh yeast versus dry yeast and all of these different methods, basically. And I did that like maybe here and there. And then once we moved to North Carolina and we knew that, okay, well, our next goal is to have our own place. I really went hard on pizza, and I did it like once a week. I was making pizza at home, and this is out of my electric oven.
Right.
setting it for 500 degrees for an hour and then putting the broiler on for like another hour.
You can get it super hot.
Yeah, with my pizza stone and just practicing that way.
Nice.
And
That's a good little tip for anyone at home.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah.
You put your oven in 500 and then you put your broiler on. Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And like for about an hour each, and you'll like recreate the
heat of a. I mean, probably. So, what do you think the inside temperature was like? 650, because it wouldn't have gotten up to the same your oven now, right?
No, I mean, probably about 650, 700 or so.
So let's cut to Faulisi. So that is at 800 degrees. It gets
about 800. Yeah.
And it's a 90-second cook you guys do?
90 seconds.
Yeah. I know we skipped a big part there. I don't know. Do you want to?
That's fine. I mean, I think we know that. So you did copious amounts of research on pizza. With Neapolitan pizza, research is key because it's so finely tuned. It's about everything, but the dough has to be. You have to make a decision exactly how you're going to make this, and then there's a finite amount. It's not like you can just start making dough. In the moment during the shift, you make a certain amount, and that's something that I remember when you were first open. There's like this pride, and I think Anthony kind of even mentioned it too. It's like all the greats got to have a line. All the greats got to have a line. You got to do whatever. But then you both will Pizzeria Faulisi, meaning you and Zach. You guys would run out, but it was like you wore it as a badge of honor, or like that's right because we prepped a lot of pizza dough and we sold out by 1 o'clock or whatever it is. And so, I mean, that's the crazy part is in my mind, I was like, well, just make more dough. It's like, well, you can't just make more dough because it's a craft in itself. Like, how long do you usually take to just make a batch of dough, let's say?
So we do like a two-day fermentation on it.
Yeah.
So we'll make it in the morning, and then we bottle it at the end of service, and then it sits in the fridge overnight. And then we either use it the next day or like that dinner service.
Yeah.
So it's about 24 hours to
take some time.
Yeah. And there's only so much you can prep, and then there's only so much storage for it as well, right?
Yeah. So we only have, and a lot of people don't understand this. It's like when you walk into our restaurant, you see the pizza oven and you see the kitchen. That's the kitchen.
Yeah.
That's what we're cooking out of. That oven. Like, there's no secret
There's no
door.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the back is just your 3-bay sink, and then you have your 3-door fridge, which is for dough, sauce, and cheese, and then a single door that's for all your mise en place, and that's it.
Yeah, and that even speaks to the menu because you do have some other stuff, and like if anybody's had the cauliflower dish there and some of the other antipasti, and those are all cooked out of the wood-fired oven as well, which is. That's the other thing about Faulisi that maybe people like. Pizza is without a doubt amazing, but I've done a wine dinner with Amber and Zach, and they can throw down all types of food.
I ate at your place, and it's like I will go specifically for like side dishes that you'll do because no one's cooking anything like that. I'm trying to remember specifically what you have in your menu.
Well, let's just talk about that cauliflower dish while you
it's
remember
the
that.
cauliflower dish. That's
It's the cauliflower dish, yeah.
Yeah, I tried to take it off the menu because what we were doing was like, seasonal vegetables. Like, what's seasonal? Let's do this. And then we created this wood-fired cauliflower with a house-made Caesar dressing, breadcrumbs, and a little bit of arugula. And people go nuts for it.
It's
and
amazing.
I mean, sometimes there is a count on it because if we do sell that many, it's like we haven't ran out of cauliflower in a while. But when we first had it on the menu, it was just selling like crazy, like more than we expected. And people are like, you can never take this off.
I went with Steve Mangano of the Cary, along with Felicia and
you guys did
Maddie
your
Beeson and Grace Beeson.
pizza.
It was just like we all were talking about. Pizza's a big deal. This is a year ago. Pizza's a big deal in the Triangle. There once were none, and now there are many very good pizza places. And we said, everyone kind of kept chiming in, like, "Oh, this place! Oh, this place! Oh, this place!" And everybody had a different idea of what their favorite place was. And then finally, I think Steve Mangano and Felicia were the ones that were saying, like, we should just do a day of just eating this pizza. And we thought, could we even do that? And, I mean, clearly you did that, Amber, when you guys were searching all around and doing research. But we weren't researching to open a place. We just were fattening up our bellies. I will give you this. We chose not to rank anything because even, like, going with, like, the Cary way, you're not ranking, you're not leaving reviews, you're not doing that. It's just saying, no, these are all great. The 5 that we went to, Pizzeria Toro, Pompieri, Tre Forni, of course, Pizzeria Faulisi, and Mercato, Pizzeria Mercato. Those 5 all were fantastic. All kind of offered something a little bit different, but the consensus, I believe, from almost everybody was that if you had to compartmentalize crust, sauce, cheese, and say who was doing it best or whatever, or which one was your favorite, I think we all kind of said that Pizzeria Faulisi might have been the most consistent in all 3 categories. And then also we did like the wow factor, because we said let's order a margarita or just a cheese, and then just something kind of crazy like whatever they're known for doing. And you had the red, white, and blue pizza. I think you still have it on the menu.
Yep.
That one kind of blew us away. Like what is that?
So the red, white, and blue is mozzarella, blue cheese, chilies, and sour cherries.
Yeah, the cherries. That's something I wouldn't think to put on a pizza.
No.
But man, it works. Where is that inspired by something you'd seen somewhere?
Yeah. So Polly G's does a pizza that I'm trying to think of what it has on it right now, but it did have like something along those lines with like prosciutto and some cherries, and it was just like this funky different thing. And so whenever I went there, that's what I would order. And then when I was, at home making all these different toppings and stuff, the one day I was like, all right, let's just take some mozzarella, blue cheese, some cherries, and chilies, and put it on there, and it's just stuck. And yeah, some people are like, what? But then they have it, and they're like, oh my God, this is so good.
Sometimes those other categories that you don't think of are the best, because you're just introducing new flavors and a sweetness and a savory component. It's umami,
Yeah, it's like sweet and spicy and funky. And
so I want to talk about sauce for a second, because I feel like with Neapolitan pizza, nobody ever talks about sauce. They talk about the pie mostly. But when Anthony from Oakwood Pizza Box was in, he is very adamant about the sauce. And I know that you guys, I think I'm right, because I've been there on a day when you've gotten your Veriluce Farms delivery. So no, you're giving me a look like, do you not do the tomato? Tell us about your sauce.
Yeah. So we just use San Marzano. The actual brand is Four Sisters Tomatoes.
Okay.
We, through practicing, tasting all kinds of different canned tomatoes, and the way either it's whole or crushed or whatever it is. So these are Four Sister whole tomatoes that we just food mill, and we add some salt to it, and that's it. It's never cooked. It's room temperature.
Wow.
That's it. It's just
Jeez.
San Marzano tomato and salt.
So wait, do you have the same issue with the lot numbers or the category numbers? But now you're going to start paying attention.
Because, yes, I listened to Anthony. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Victory. I didn't even notice.
So wait, Anthony's neuroses is now creeping into your brain because of this? No one I've ever heard of looked at lot numbers on a can.
I know.
To get
Well, he just realized that they were tasting different, and I think in his rabbit hole search to figure out why, that was the answer. Yeah. And so now, have you started? Have you noticed?
Well, I don't know. Now I'm aware of it.
Okay,
so now.
gotcha. Now you're going to check. Cool. So, well, beyond sauce, and that's so cool. I love it. It's just like less is more, Just keep it simple. If the product is beautiful, you don't need to mess it up.
Yeah, that's our whole philosophy.
So, cut to, Max, you mentioned things about lines, and you guys started doing like Friday pop-ups where there would be special things. I remember a good friend of the show, Terry Caulfield, who works around there, would be like, man, I got to get to my Faulisi line or else they're going to run out. So like you started this whole thing about specials. And then one of the things you started doing, which is absolute genius, if you're a pizza maker and you have a wood fire oven, why not on the weekends we make some bagels? And so you started playing around with that. And then was there always the intention, like, we got to do a second place, or did that genuinely come out of just making bagels on the weekend?
Yeah, so in the beginning, Zach and I were working, and while Dom's there, obviously, we would be working all the time. So once we got our system down and, we figured out the oven and everything, we're like, okay, well, let's just, see what else we can do. So Zach really got into this bagel making and making donuts and seeing what he can cook in this oven. And that he just basically self-taught himself, by reading. He reads a lot of stuff. And he was doing bagel pop-ups, and it would be like Saturday from 10 to 12, because we would open up the pizzeria at 12. Come get, and he'd have them on the pizza pans lined up on the bar. And, he started with maybe like 4 different ones, and people would just come and they would get them, and then we did like pre-orders for Christmas, I think it was, and sold out. And so it was like, okay, well, maybe we'll do this, keep doing this on the weekends or whatever. And then Little Caesars right down the block from us, same landlords that we have. So they're like, hey, I don't know if you guys are interested, but I see that you guys are doing pop-ups. Would you be interested in taking over, Little Caesars when their lease is done? And we're like, okay, well, we have to look into this more. And so when we did, we were like, well, this would be stupid if we didn't grab it up, because it was just like a real estate opportunity. Wine, and it's right here. They're close next to each other and everything.
I mean, karmically, isn't that so amazing that this small independent pizza shop took over a national branded Little Caesars
that couldn't make it in that area.
They couldn't make it in that area, so the one that made it, the thriving one, was the small guy.
Seriously.
And put a bagel shop in there. It's great. I love it.
That is a great story. And let me just take this moment to add in, we've talked a lot about quality of life and family life in North Carolina, and me in my day job selling wine to Amber, I'll come into the shop or to the pizzeria pretty often, and always Dom is there either doing some sous chef responsibilities or just some kid stuff, but like he has grown up in the restaurant, which is so cool. I mean, I can't wait to see what that evolves into, as he grows into a teenager and an adult, etc.
Yeah, really, it could go either way. He could definitely love it, or he could hate it.
Yeah, I'm never walking to a restaurant again.
It's like, I don't have to. That's probably a good thing, right? You're like, this is what we do. And
right.
You can always fall back to that later. He'll probably go through the rebellious phase. Yeah. Guess what? I'm going to order Little Caesars, Mom. What do you think about that?
I'm getting Domino's. Yeah. I'm ordering it to the restaurant. No, but seriously, that kid has had the benefit of growing up with some great pizza. I mean, and I'm assuming that a lot of your research at home, he was the benefit of eating that pizza.
Oh, yeah. He was like maybe like a year old, and I have him like putting the sauce on the pizza because, he's always there into whatever you're doing, he wants to do.
Sure.
So if I
How
was
old is he now?
4. It's
That's
crazy.
right.
Yeah.
So, but let's get into bagels. We spend time on pizza, and I think we all kind of get a good idea here. Like the 2 biggest things that are on your menu, like right on the very top, hand-rolled bagels and baked donuts, right? Like those are 2 things that you do there. They're different from each other, but hand-rolled, what are you doing? I don't really know how to make a bagel, to be honest. I'm whatever, a California guy. I just buy them. So how are you making these bagels, and how is this different than how bagels are made? Like I see a wide range of how to make a bagel, and I don't understand it. So please inform me.
So, I mean, this is kind of Zach's baby, the bagel thing. But basically, we do use malt in our in the dough that he makes. But he literally will hand roll every single bagel and put it on a sheet tray, and then that does ferment for about 12 or 14 hours. Whereas some places use machines.
Yeah.
Or they just, I don't even know how they do it, but he is just like hand rolling it, sets it on a sheet tray, lets it ferment, brings it out, does, I want to say he's doing honey water.
Yeah.
But I think so.
No, he said that. And so, well, that's a good point to bring up. So one of the things, I guess, there are 2 major camps for bagels from what I'm understanding, and it's something I read about. Bageldom is New York style bagel, and then the Montreal style bagel. And what I didn't understand is, well, what's different? And I guess the different, you guys I think would be considered more Montreal style because you add honey also to the water that the bagels boil in.
Yeah, it could be a very controversial thing because in Montreal they do the honey water, but then they also use wood-fired oven. And here all we did was take over the Little Caesars, so it's still a conveyor belt oven.
Okay.
So that was, it was interesting too because we were doing this out of the wood-fired oven.
Yeah.
How do we recreate this in this oven down here to get the same texture and everything. So he did all kinds of different experiments too before we even opened to see how they would come out, how long they would take, how long you cook it in the water, how long do you put it through the oven, do you spray it with this, do you use Crisco, do you do this, like all kinds of different things. So once, so he does it in the honey water, and then he'll put it through the conveyor belt oven, and then that's it.
And you're open at 7 a.m., and you're making all these donuts, all these bagels, and all the dough at Pizzeria. I mean, obviously, you two are kind of splitting up the time a little bit more. It sounds like you're focusing a little more at the Pizzeria?
Yeah, so the only way that this really works is I'm at Pizzeria basically all day, and then Zach opens up the bagel shop, and he does, all the prep, he does the service. Like, he is the only one who's doing all of this right now. When the time comes and we can hire somebody else, we'll do that. But, as a small business, you can't just hire people and make it happen. You got to get the revenue coming in and then go from there. So we're almost at that point now that we are looking for somebody else just to be like a right hand, so that he doesn't have to get up.
If you use the NCFB promo code, they'll give you a 10% salary raise.
Speaking of the NCF&B promo code, we should mention that if you want to get a discount off of your beverage purchases, the Triangle Wine Company so graciously has offered our listeners a promo code. And if you go to the Triangle Wine Company, they have 4 locations: Southern Pines, where you once worked, Morrisville, not too far, and then Cary, very close, so you can get your bagels and then get your booze for your Sunday brunch. And then
your hometown.
In my hometown, Holly Springs. Also a great resource online, trianglewineco.com. Again, use the NCF&B promo code for a healthy discount.
Time management in all of it. You've decided to make 2 types of businesses that require a lot of time for prep, which doesn't require a lot of time for life. How are you managing that? And with the 4-year-old running around, we all know like that. Dom's not even in like school yet. I mean, maybe some preschools and all, but like that's got to be challenging for all of you just to find the time to be mommy and daddy and business owners.
Yeah.
How is it working right now?
So basically, once Zach finishes up bagel at like 4 or 5, he takes Dom home. So he has, his one-on-one time. And then, I have Dom in the morning because we finally have a sous chef who is manning the oven, so I can kind of oversee more beverage and the food as well.
In front of the house.
Yeah. And just oversee everything a lot more. So that way, I have more of the morning time with Dom, and then we are closed at the Pizzeria Sunday and Monday, and then the bagel shop Monday and Tuesday. So, when it's, Sunday's kind of like mine and Dom's day. We do whatever we want.
Yeah.
You can follow that on Instagram. You guys always have great activities and pictures, and it makes me feel bad. It's like, what am I doing with my kid? We're just hanging out in the backyard. Like, you're going to museums, baseball games.
It's
and
just who I am.
On his knee at the Triangle Wine Company.
Try this burial beer.
So you're crafting it though. That sounds manageable, and
yeah,
then,
you
of course,
guys.
Zach has Dom Day on Tuesdays. It sounds like, because then you're opening up the pizza shop, and then he's got a little time for himself there as well. So that's important. That's good, and having a quality of life is good. But I also wanted to say that you probably work this job like it is your life. I mean, that is your home, right? I mean, in a way. So it doesn't hopefully it doesn't always feel like you're working.
Yeah, no, to me it doesn't feel like work. Like, I keep telling everybody, like, it's like my home. Like, I put my whole life savings into this. And so when I'm there, it's like, if somebody moves my table, I'm going to get upset because, like, you're walking in my home and you're moving my table.
Yeah. So,
yeah, it's definitely like a second home to me.
Yeah.
And I think Dom feels very comfortable, too.
Yeah, no, that's why I mentioned that also earlier. Like, you see Dom, they'll have like the one TV in the corner, and he'll be watching like Mickey Mouse or Thomas the Train or whatever. But it's hilarious. I think that's the best way, because that's the only way you can feel good about committing those huge amount of hours. And then the smart, conscious decision about taking 2 days off, so you know that you have a life outside of it as well.
As a boy that grew up, spent a lot of time from about 4 to about 8 in a deli growing up. My godfather had a Deli DeMarco. Those are some of the most fond memories I have, and it didn't feel like I was you know, I mean, effectively, I think I was just basically being babysat there because we didn't know what to do with me, especially in the summer. You know, it's like, what are we going to do? So my brother was a manager there. He's, you know, a lot older than I am. So he's like the teenager or the 18-year-old, whatever, managing. And I just have the smells of the mustard and the pierogies. My godfather also made a lot of Russian stuff. And it was like pierogies and the salamis and the mortadellas and all that. And the Toblerones that he may give me if I dusted all of the shelves. But that feels good, and it makes me feel great. So when I do walk into a proper deli, I get all that sense memory back, and I think that Dom will have that forever, no matter if he's ordering Domino's at college or not. He'll always have that sense memory of like, this is home, this feels good. So what a cool way to craft a family. I like that.
I have one more question, family dynamic wise. So, like, when you guys were creating the recipes and settling in on it, like, was there some disputes, or who had last call over, okay, we're going with this recipe or this tweak in the pizzas? Or
No.
did you guys just see eye to eye the whole time?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we've never really bumped heads for business stuff. We just
You couldn't possibly be married.
This is why it works. All right. Well, so one other thing. We had a lengthy sports talk discussion with Anthony Guerra. You are from Pittsburgh, and I'm pretty sure like a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So give us your quick feelings on the whole, losing of Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown.
Matt is a fan of the Jets, and I am a fan of the Raiders, the two teams that now possess two of the best players that the Steelers have had almost.
Or maybe you don't want to weigh in at all.
oh man.
Ooh.
So sad. Well, yeah, you're not even. You seem a little bitter. You seem a little torn.
Yeah. Well, something to help that bitterness.
Yes. Before we get out of here.
Yeah. Our friends and our new sponsor of the show, we're bringing back the gift bag and the gift portion of the show, and our friends Bestow Baked Goods, Kyle and Heather over there, are doing some amazing work. They're also opening up right next to Triangle Wine Company in Holly Springs.
Yeah, so currently they are in 128 South Fuquay Avenue in Fuquay Varina, but then keep up with us because soon they will be in Holly Springs, and we'll let you know. And, of course, follow them on Instagram at Bestow Baked Goods. And if anyone saw my personal Instagram during Charlotte's birthday, she had the most beautifully decorated unicorn cake because my 6-year-old is obsessed, as probably most 6-year-olds are with unicorns. We would love to share the wealth. And so this morning, they shared a beautiful cake that you'll see. Check our Instagram right now. Amber, you are being gifted. We are bestowing you with this baked good. It is a pizza pie cake. What is it? Chocolate and espresso inside, decorated with lovely tiny Neapolitan style pizzas all on the side. So enjoy.
Thank you guys.
And for all those out there, go to Pizzeria Faulisi in downtown Cary. You will eat and drink very merrily. Thanks, Amber.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.